Services webinar, which we have published on our website. So if you'd like to go see that recording, then please do. But we felt it was important to host a joint webinar with Piclo today, and we will be going through and detailing how to participate in Northern Powergrid's flexibility competitions. So I'd just like to start off by saying that this webinar will be recorded, and the way that we're going to lay this webinar out is by doing a 30-minute presentation followed by Q&A. As you probably noticed, that your microphones are on mute, so you will be in listening mode only for the duration of this webinar. But please feel free to ask questions at any point during this webinar, because it's important to us that you get the most out of it. And the questions will be answered at the end, but just keep posting them throughout the chat. And then the questions that we don't get to, we will be answering after the webinar. And if you have any feedback on today's session, please get in touch with us at flexibility@Northern Powergrid. But also, if you have any questions or would like further discussions with me or any of the team, then please get in touch with us at flexibility@Northern Powergrid, where we can start having discussions and calls. Thank you, Adair. If you go to the next slide.
Yes.
So as you can see, these may be some familiar faces that you may have come across before. So I'm just going to run through the members of my team. So we have Maurice on the call, who's the head of system flexibility. We have Jeremy, the operational data and systems manager, myself, the flexibility service analyst, and Liz and Laura, who are our commercial managers at Northern Powergrid, and also Adiri, who's joined us on the call from Piclo as the account associate. So this slide, I'm just going to run through the objectives of today's webinar. So Maurice will be running through an introduction to Northern Powergrid and also be giving us some details on the flexibility requirements and some key dates, which then we will be passing over to Adiri at Piclo, who will be running through some demonstrations and going through the platform for the competitions. So if you have any questions during the demos, please use the chat function and we will answer them at the end. And then we will also be passing over to my teammate, Jeremy, who will be just going through the flexible power platform and discussion dispatch and settlement. And then we will be doing a Q&A section at the end. So thank you. And I'm now going to pass you over to Maurice, who will be providing us an introduction of Northern Powergrid.
Thanks, Nicole. Perfect. Thanks, Adiri. So firstly, welcome everyone on behalf of MPG and obviously Piclo. Just delighted to have you here to speak a little bit more about our flexibility service competitions and more importantly, our upcoming autumn tender, which I'm hoping you're all looking forward to and eagerly anticipating. So again, my name is Maurice Lynch, Head of System Flexibility within Northern Powergrid, where I have the responsibility of leading the flexibility business unit. A little bit about Northern Powergrid, I'm sure you already all know, but we'll do the obligatories anyways. We're the network operator for the North East, Yorkshire and Northern Lincolnshire, serve about 3.9 million homes and businesses, which we're very proud to do. And like knows, we have responsibility of our flexibility first commitment. We prioritise flexibility services and only implementing network reinforcement where flexibility is not viable or is cost effective. A little bit of an interesting, I suppose, stat in terms for our ED2 is we projected net benefits of up to 156 million in avoiding traditional reinforcement costs over the course of ED2. So that presents a huge opportunity for us and yourselves in terms of growing the flexibility services within our region and obviously to support and optimize our network for our customers. Next slide, please, Adiri. So again, a bit of an introduction to flexibility services and MPG. So our ambition over the course of ED2 was to tender flexibility services from 2023 to 2025. Again, deferring network reinforcement at our primary and importantly at our primary and distribution substations. We will be going out for both HV and LV flex across a different multitude of actual flexibility products. A little bit different to other DNOs. I think other DNOs do 2 tenders a year. We're going to run 3 tenders a year because that's our ambition. We're very ambitious in terms and have a huge commitment to try and implement flex where possible and obviously serve our network, our customers, our network's needs. We'll be looking for both demand turn down and generation turn up services. Flex services are an important tool for us to enable efficient investment and obviously operation in our network. And our flexibility service procurement utilises Piclo. I think an important note to make as well that like other DNOs, we utilise Piclo as our pre-contract procurement platform, which is fantastic. We're proud to be part of the Piclo family. We also utilize flexible power for our dispatch. So what we have done within another similar DNO is that we have essentially Piclo and flexible power bolted together in terms of when contracts and bids come into Piclo, when the platform, we review those bids and accept accordingly, and that information gets passed to flexible power in terms for an API. Again, all of this in terms of any questions or queries you have on Piclo or flexible power, do not hesitate to ask us, because we're here to help. We're here to serve you and support you in any challenge or questions or queries you may have. Adira, let's go to the next slide, please.
Yeah.
So a little bit in terms of our actual autumn requirements. So again, we're going out for sustained flexibility product. We're looking to procure flex in 3 HV locations: Market Wheaton, Scunthorpe, and Stocksbridge near Sheffield. I didn't know, I had to put Sheffield in there because I wasn't too sure where it was. Yeah. But we're also looking to go out for 10 LV sites as well. Both at H3 and LV, we're offering, I think, a really attractive actual remuneration and obviously an opportunity for FSPs to get involved. We think so, and we hope you think that when you register and you obviously go through the initiation, not go through the actual registering of this competition. But furthermore, we're looking to go out to 6 HV sites for an expression of interest at the back end of 27-28. So again, if you are looking at building assets in the future and wondering where we may have actual requirements, those expression of interest sites are key for us going forward within those years. So please be aware of that. A few dates to be aware of, I think, because deadlines are key. And again, a question I get asked is, Mars, is there any movement on the deadline? No, there's not, unfortunately. They are a deadline for a reason. Because the reason I'll say that is we're looking to have a fast turnaround in the service contract beginning from December this year. So again, for Tuesday, the 16th of October, we're looking to have the deadline to complete the DPS, company registration. The 24th of October, the deadline to complete the ASTA registration, and on the 31st, bidding window opens. And obviously on the 6th of November, the competition bidding window closes. But look, an important note for me to put across to you folks is that any questions or queries, and I know it probably sounds mundane, but we are here to help. We have a quite strong team, and obviously a huge remit in terms of within Piclo and in flexible power. If you are looking to participate within this autumn tender, or if you have any challenges or queries, reach out to the team. This is what we're here to do. In terms of the sites we're going out for, obviously procuring flex, we're looking to fulfill those capacity requirements, and we have strong ambitions that we will. But again, we want to be able to support you and obviously to participate within this tender. That's all you're going to hear from me. But again, I'm going to remain on the call. If any questions or queries throughout, I'm happy to answer. But Adiri, I think I'm going to hand over to you, and you're going to show everyone how to participate and go through a high-level overview of the essentially a demo, aren't you? So I'll hand it back to you.
Perfect. Thank you, Morris. Yeah, so I'm going to give an overview of Piclo. So Piclo is a leading independent marketplace for flexibility in the UK and in many locations across the world. We essentially bridge the gap between system operators such as Northern Powergrid and flex providers, and we make it much easier to procure flexibility locally than it has been done in the past. So I'll go to the next slide. So this slide is just an overview of how the process works when you are signed up to Piclo. Obviously, Morris and Nicole have given you an overview of their they've given you an overview of their objectives for this tender, and this is how the process works when you are fully signed up to Piclo. You'll be able to qualify your assets and place bids when competitions open. So I'm going to give you a quick overview of how that process works on Piclo Flex. So when you have signed up to Piclo Flex as a flex service provider, one of the first things you will need to do is complete a DPS, which is essentially an assessment of your company, and you will just need to fill in that questionnaire. It's fairly easy to do, and once you've done that, you would submit it, and Northern Powergrid will make their verdict, and they will be in touch to let you know whether you've completed the DPS. I'm going to play a short video to explain how you should upload your assets. So it's going to play for a few minutes, and then I will segue to the next stage of our processes. To upload your assets to the Piclo platform, you can do the following. Log into your account, click on Manage, and click on Assets, and click on the Download the latest template button, which I'm highlighting here. I'm going to show you an example of how the asset upload template should look like. So in this spreadsheet, I have provided, or I've already provided, asset data for a battery asset and a charge point asset. So I'm just going to scroll across my screen so you can have a view of the asset data that I've already entered, which is basically dummy information. So basically, this spreadsheet is an opportunity for you as a Flex provider to provide us with as much asset data as possible so that Northern Powergrid can do the relevant assessments ahead of competition open. Then continue to scroll across the screen so you can have a view of the data that I've entered for these two assets. But it's a fairly simple process. You just need to populate it with all of your asset data based on what you have to hand. There are two tabs at the bottom. One is dedicated to operational development assets, and another tab is dedicated to plant assets. Given that I've already populated the data, I'm going to go back to the dashboard and upload it. So you would click on Choose File, and upload the file by selecting it from your computer. Just going to wait a few seconds for the file to upload. And great, I can see that it's uploaded. So I'm going to view the status of the upload. And yes, I can see that the spreadsheet has uploaded properly. If you were to upload this spreadsheet and you faced any errors, you can simply review the errors that are flagged by system and correct them by re-uploading the spreadsheet. Now that I've uploaded this spreadsheet, it'll be good for me to see how my assets look on the map. So I'm going to go to the map. And I'm going to select a competition I'm interested in. So in this case, I'm interested in Scunthorpe, Crowley. I click on this competition. I can see that the battery asset that I mentioned earlier is showing as eligible for this competition, which means the asset I've uploaded is eligible to bid for this competition ahead of competition open. Sorry, excuse me. Yeah, so that's how you can upload assets to the Piclo. To upload your asset. Oh, sorry. Yep, so that's how you can upload assets to our platform. So once you've uploaded your assets to Piclo Flex, one of the final things you need to do is simply confirm your entry into the competitions that you're interested in partaking in. And you can do that in your dashboard by going to Manage and clicking on Qualification. And as you can see on my screen, you would just simply select this tick box and confirm your entry. And once you've confirmed your entry, you can have an overview of the assets that are qualifying and determine if you need to make any adjustments ahead of competition open. So I'm going to play another video which will give you an overview of how you can obviously dive in and place bids when competition opens. And it just shows you how to place a bid once you have uploaded your assets onto Piclo Flex and followed through with qualification. So I'm just going to play this short video. In this quick demo, I'm going to show you how to place a bid into Northern Powergrid's latest autumn tender. Placing a bid is fairly straightforward. All you need to do is log into your account and go to the map. I already have the map showing, so I don't need to log in. As you can see, there's a list of competitions showing on the right-hand side. So I'm going to select the competition that I am interested in. In this case, I'm interested in this competition. I've clicked into it and I can see the competition window and the service windows. Also, I can see these two pins and they represent my assets. And I can see that they qualify for this competition. So I'm going to click on this box here and click on bid to begin placing my bids. I'm going to enter my bid data, put 0.5 here, and I'm going to put a runtime of 2 hours. And a utilization of £141. There are 2 service windows in this example. So if I wanted to bid into this service window, I can bid into that service window as well. I can bid with more than one asset. So if I'm an aggregator and I uploaded 10 assets, I could bid with those 10 assets if I wanted to, as long as those assets fall within the competition. In this case, I'm only going to bid with this asset, but if I wanted to bid with 2, I could do that. I'm going to confirm my selection. I can also use this calculator to apply bids across multiple service windows, and that will save me a lot of time. So that's another option. On the left-hand side, I can see the ceiling price is £141, and I can see the total need is 0.5. So that has influenced what I've entered here in this service window. But when you are placing your bid, you can enter your bid data based on what is manageable for you. So now I'm going to submit my bid. So you need to click on this box here to confirm your bid and click on submit. Great, so my bid has been submitted. I have an option to submit another bid. So I can go back and submit another bid, or I can click on finish bid, and that will take me to the bidding section. So if I wanted to submit a new bid, I could submit a new bid in this section. And if I wanted to edit my bid, I could go to edit active bids and delete my bid if I wanted to. Just be mindful that if you delete your bid, you will need to delete and adjust your bid before competition closes. And that's it. Great. So yeah, that's how you place bids on Piclo Flex. So once you place your bids, the competition will close and we will then hand over to post-competition activities and you'll be informed of the results of the competition. So I'm going to hand this over to Jeremy and Nicole, and they will go into further details about how the process works on Piclo after you've placed bids with us. Thank you.
Thanks, Adiri. That's really good. It's an absolute pleasure to be participating in this webinar today. Just kind of want to say we are really super keen to get some flexibility in place from this kind of tender round and get it kind of in place by winter. So we really would love to convert this opportunity into a revenue stream for FSPs. So we can't emphasize enough, if you're just kind of interested or you're thinking about it or you're weighing things up or not sure, please reach out to us. We'd be delighted to have any kind of conversation. So it's a tight timescale. Yes, we agree. I think Maurice touched upon that, but we do believe it's eminently kind of deliverable. So what we've kind of done so far is we've kind of taken ourselves through the process of we've identified a need, we've put the need onto the Piclo website. Idiri's explained how you complete the DPS and then how you update assets. We obviously do an element of due diligence on the company qualification on the assets, and providing that's all okay, we open the bidding window, you bid, the bidding window closes, then we kind of weigh up the bids, and again a due diligence process kind of swings into operation. But all being well, by the 15th of November, we will have determined which bids that we want to accept. We'll then move into contract negotiation, execution, etc., etc. So our target first day for the sort of winter service window is the 4th of December. So as I say, it's tight, but we kind of believe it's eminently doable. We use the flexibility, the flexible power, service for dispatch and settlement. This winter's tender is for the sustained product only, so there won't be so much kind of a deployment of the dispatch capability. I really want to just touch a little bit on settlement. So what happens is that we set the service provider details and the contract up in flexible power. What then happens is that by the 15th of the month in which the flexibility has been provided, the meter readings need to be updated to flexible power, and flexible power then takes over. It calculates the payments due. It generates an invoice on the flexibility provider's behalf. That then gets submitted to Northern Powergrid, and then we just kind of pay that or process it and pay it in the normal way. So it's from a flex provider point of view, it's kind of a fairly light touch arrangement, really. The data that you upload, the meter data, can be uploaded via an API. But if an API feels perhaps like it's too much of a sort of a tech heavy kind of thing for you, when you've got a lighter appetite for tech, as it were, then you can just upload data using a CSV file. So it's, you know, it's not one size fits all. There are kind of a few kind of options that are available dependent upon the kind of organization you are. And that's it, really. It's a kind of a pretty simple process. You know, we'll hold your hand, as it were, throughout the process. And as I say, we would really love to be in a situation where we could deliver a revenue stream to you this winter. So that's about it for me for the time being. Idiri, if I can pass it back, please.
Yeah, sure. So, yeah, like Jeremy said, we're very excited to have you on board with participating in Northern Powergrid's tender, and I'm also on standby if you have any questions during the process, or you need help with uploading your assets or making sure your account is up to date. So, yeah, now we can segue to questions if you have any.
Yeah, so just before we dive into the questions, because I can see that there's been some in chat and I can see Maurice has been replying to some of them. Now that the presentation is over, I just want to thank everyone for coming and being on this webinar with us. If you would like to get in touch with us, please, like I said, email the flexibility@northernpowergrid.com email address, and we can have deeper discussions if you've not got any questions that you want answers to now. So let me just go to the chat and go to the first question. We do have on the call Jeremy and Maurice, who you've met, but also my colleagues Laura and Liz, who will also be available to answer questions. So the first question is from Vanya. So thank you, Vanya. Is there any overlap between the HV and LV sites?
So,
Do you want me to?
Oh, go on.
I was going to. I'll answer that. The short answer is no. Not on this particular occasion. There may be in future kind of competitions and future kind of tender rounds that will occur in 2024 and subsequent years. But in this particular tender round, no, there's no overlap.
And I'll just add on to that. Jeremy's right. The LV site is interesting, and I think we see as LV Flex as being a huge opportunity in future for EG2. But in all honesty, folks, we're only getting started on the LV sites. You're going to see a lot more growth in that from us, and a lot more actual competitive pricing, I would say, as other DNOs are doing. So it's only the tip of the iceberg in terms of we've started off this campaign with Piclo. We want a successful campaign. We're heading out, but you're going to see a lot more LV come on there, which Vanya, I know you're an octopus, so I'm sure you'd be glad to see that. Okay.
Thank you. Yeah, so the next question is from Sudanshu. So his question is, for filling the asset sheet, we work in RDSR. Do we need to mention each home user or group them as one portfolio and let's say home EVs as another?
So Adiri, I think you were asked this question first, so I would expect someone from Piclo to step up here and answer this. I think Liz has asked this previous, so Mike, Adiri, can you step in there, please? You're on mute, Adiri.
Sorry about that. Yes, so from my understanding, Jindal, I believe you're saying if you can group it as one, let's say, Jindal, I will get back to you on that particular question because it's quite specific use case. So for that particular question, I will get back to you on that. So apologies that I can't answer it in detail. But I will follow up with you after this call to give you the correct answer.
Yeah, thanks, Adiri. It's Liz Sidebottom here. So I think it's perhaps worth, I mean, Adiri will answer that question about whether you have to upload each of them or whether you can do it as a create a representative asset. What I would say is that because Piclo works as like with geographic maps, if you do upload each asset individually, that process actually verifies their location on the map and therefore verifies you get sight immediately of where those sit in relation to a zone that's a competition zone that exists.
Thank you, Liz. So we have another question from Nick. Are all fields within the upload spreadsheet mandatory or are some optional? So I'll pass that over to Adiri from Piclo, but from my knowledge, I believe that it does actually say on the spreadsheet whether there is some that are mandatory or there is some that are optional. Yeah, so it does that. Do you want to go into a deep level in regards to that, Adiri?
Yes, so you would have seen in the demo that I've done that some of the columns are optional, some of them are required. So you definitely need to fill in the required columns, whereas there are optional columns that you can provide any information to the best of your ability. So yeah, the spreadsheet is split into required and optional, and the optional columns. We do also expect you to fill in that, but if you don't have it to hand, then just provide as much asset data as possible and upload that spreadsheet. And if you have any questions around anything that's missing, or if there is key asset data missing, our system will flag to you that data is missing, and then you'll be prompted to upload the spreadsheet so that you can qualify. But as long as you provide the bare minimum in terms of the required columns, you should be fine when it comes to pre-qualification.
Thank you. Yeah, I think it's worth saying that if you're having any struggles with regards to filling out any of the spreadsheets, that us at Northern Powergrid, the flexibility team, are on hand to help, because we want to make this process as easy and as simple as possible. And also the Piclo team are on hand. And at the end of the slide, you'll see the email address that you can go speak to if you're having any queries or issues in regards to the templates. We have a question from Gordon, but I believe Maurice has answered that. But just for the benefit of the webinar, we have a roadmap of plant assets. Do you want us to upload the whole roadmap in the Piclo Flex system? Do you just want to, I know you provided an answer for that, Maurice, but would you just like to go over that?
Yeah, it was just to save Gordon some time. So like we're very, very keen in terms of we do lots of we update our forecast quite regularly in terms of where we see changes, and we have constraints on the network, and we obviously need to procure flex or look at other types of flex products. So I just love to get my hands on your roadmap if possible, Gordon, to see where we can obviously be more aligned, and then us as a team will feed back to you directly in terms of where we see things coming. I'd hate for you to register everything and go through that hardship of doing that. I think we can be a bit more specific and support you on that. So that was the thing there.
Yeah, just to add to that, you don't need to upload all of your plant assets. You would just upload your plant assets that are relevant to the current competitions that you can see on the Piclo map. But as Maurice said, we're very much happy to have that ongoing conversation and make life easier for you. But yeah, you don't need to upload all of your assets.
Thank you. So I can see quite a lot of questions are now coming in, which is great to see. So we've got a question from James. If we bid for a specific time frame, when do we dispatch the load? Close to the date, is there a defined time date for actual delivery?
I can answer that because it's probably an easy one, James. I tend to take the easy questions, leave the hard ones to Nicole, Liz and Laura and Adiri. But yeah, there's a specific time and date in terms of we want you to actual dispatch. I think that should be as you go further along within the actual registration process, that will become clear. We'll have an actual window, say, I don't know, Friday or Saturday from 6 to 8 p.m, whatever it may be, and then you obviously dispatch accordingly through there, and obviously that'll be done via flexible power. So yeah, it's specific, and you will have visibility of that, and obviously we'll have visibility of that from a settlement point of view as well. I think I've answered that okay. Liz, I'd ask you to add on to that.
Yeah, Maurice, I think, just to kind of fill in a bit of colour on that. So some who may be familiar with the different standard products for flexibility that have been created and are being updated by the Open Networks project to create industry standardisation. So there's a number of products, and some of those we might agree a contract now, but say day ahead or week ahead, we confirm what will be dispatched. So that's some products. In this autumn tender round, we're procuring what's called the sustain product, which is perhaps the simplest one. So whatever the flex requirement, flex level and service windows that will be in the contract, we are expecting those to run. So that is not one that we will be advising you day ahead or week ahead of what's to run. What we're awarding contracts for now for this sustain product in the autumn tender round, that is what will be run. But expect to see us introducing other products in future tender rounds.
Great, thank you, Liz. So a question from Nick. If a bidder has tens, hundreds of small assets in a bid area for a competition, then the interface feels quite manual for this, or is there a filtering option for bulk bidding?
Yeah, I can answer that question. I should have mentioned this earlier, but as well as you go through this journey manually, you can also go through the journey via API. So that will expedite a lot of the journey when it comes to the assets that you intend to upload. So if you do have the capacity to utilize APIs on your end, then you can sync up with our system and upload your assets via that way. We also do have a bulk bidding option as well, which you can do manually on our platform. So there's more than one option. You can manually, you can do it manually, or you can do it via API.
Thank you. And we've got a question from Hannah saying, can assets participating in other flex markets also participate? So for an example, assets in CM.
Hi, Hannah. So I think, from my understanding, yes, I think the key thing is, as long as you're able to dispatch it, coordinate to our requirements, what other markets you obviously participate in has no actual relevance to us. I think you can. I think as an industry, this is going to be key going forward in terms of participating in multiple markets, in terms of stacking and what's happening. So I'd actually be very keen to have further discussions on that, because as an actual FSP, you're looking to, I suppose, gain as much opportunity and let's put it for a bit of revenue out of the market you participate in. And I think that's key for all of you going forward. But yeah, the answer will be yes, but keen to have further discussions on that in terms of some of the thinking and strategizing you have on that, because we believe we can feed into that to support that.
Lovely, thank you. So we've got a question from Vanya, which I think Liz will be best to answer this. Will you be using an overarching contract, and which version of the ENA contract will you be using?
Okay, so that's definitely one for me. So from this autumn tender round, we have implemented version 2.1 of the Open Networks standard contract, and I believe we're the first DNO to implement that. And at present we're using that as not an overarching basis, but as a, if we were to award a contract to you in this autumn tender round, that'd be one contract. And then if you came back and won some more contracts in the next tender round, which would be great, we would sign a new contract with you for that. Now, I was on a call earlier this morning, and there's more work going on. And one of the issues under discussion was how to actually, as an industry, move forward on this, so that we are, as an industry, working towards possibly an overarching contract. But that's not the approach we're taking at this point in time.
Right, thank you, Liz. I knew you'd be best to answer that one. So Luke has asked, what type of generation assets are Northern Powergrid accepting as part of the qualification process?
I want to go and say all, Luke, that we don't discriminate. We're taking if you're able to provide the flexibility in terms of its demand turn down or turn up, we don't really have any preference. I think it's we need to understand obviously what you're registering meets our scope and requirements from a flexibility service point of view, but likewise, there's no actual preference, Luke, as long as you're able to provide the flex procurement and in terms of whatever requirement we have at that time. There is no actual specification on what type asset it is. But again, keen to have further discussion. I think you've asked that question for a reason, so I think there's more to it. I don't know if I've answered it the best, but let's take that offline to have further discussions if that's okay.
Yeah, and I'd just like to say, like, I think that applies to anyone. If we're answering a question but you want to have a more detailed discussion, then please just get in touch with one of us, and we're more than happy to have a conversation after the webinar. So we have a question from James. Are these competition locations the only contract opportunities available this winter, or are there opportunities for bespoke contracts depending on asset?
So I'll go again. I'd ask Liz to fill in behind me. So essentially these will be a 2-year contract for this winter and obviously the winter after. I'm looking to see Liz to see if she's nods. I think she will be nods. Yeah. There are opportunities for sole contracts depending on the asset. I think we've already touched on that, but I think more importantly as well, and just to say to everyone on the call, we'll be publishing our flex strategy for 2024 in terms of how many tenders we'll run, how many in terms of what products we're going out for at various times throughout each tender. So you'll have our strategy in terms of what we're going to go out for and when and what dates. So yes, for this upcoming competition, it's 2 winters, which and obviously the contracted period is detailed within Piclo, but it will also be publishing our strategy in terms of the rest of 2024. So you can plan and align that to your own actual strategies within your own organizations to take advantage of that.
Great, thank you. So Peter has asked, will the recording of this meeting be available afterwards? So I can share my colleague who couldn't make it. Yeah, so definitely. So we will actually be sharing the slides, but we will also be sharing the recording. So this will be available on our socials, but it will also be on our website. And I think it's just worth saying that with the flexibility at Northern Powergrid email address that I keep referring to, we do have a mailing list on there. So if you'd like to be part of that mailing list and you're not already on it, please just get in touch with us and we can add you onto that. So we've got a question from Philip saying, hi, do Northern Powergrid use environmental status fuel type as part of the tender assessment?
So I'll answer that one. So, I mean, as Maurice mentioned earlier, we're happy for any kind of generation or demand response to be submitted, provided you can actually deliver the flexibility that we're looking for. There is one nuance on that, which is that if we are oversubscribed with lots of bids, which we're looking forward to, and that, you know, there's a tie on price bid, then in the event that we need a tiebreaker, then we would have a preference for the lower carbon intensive form of flexibility.
Yeah, thank you, Liz. So I don't believe we have any more questions, but we did have some pre-submitted questions. So I'm just going to go through those 2, and then it gives time to people to ask any questions in the meantime. So one of the questions was, is there a minimum bid capacity? So I'll speak about that, and then if the team want to dig a bit deeper if I've missed anything. So yeah, we have put that at 10 kilowatts in any competition zone, and we have deliberately kept this low to enable new entrants to the market for flexibility services. I'm not sure if anyone wants to dive a bit deeper on that.
I think that's worth saying that, I mean, I think the 10 kilowatts is lower than a lot of other DNOs have for their flexibility markets, and it is very much because we do want to encourage new entrants, because often you start small and then grow, but you need to get that chance to start small, and that's why we put it at 10 kilowatts.
Lovely, thank you. And then the other question is, what other tender opportunities will there be after this one? So I think we've already mentioned that we run at least 2 tender rounds per year in the autumn and the spring, and the next tender round will be in spring 2024. So I think that's just worth mentioning. I've not seen any other questions coming up. If we've got any closing comments from Piclo or Northern Powergrid before we end the webinar.
Yeah, my only comment is that just to repeat what the Northern Powergrid team have said is that yeah, we welcome your participation. We're looking forward to you diving in. And if you need any help or you're unsure about anything, we're going to send you the slide deck, but you can email us and we will help you along the way ahead of competition open. So yeah, looking forward to your bids.
Deary, could you just go along to the last slide, dear boy, and just put the flexibility email up? Brilliant, thank you so much.
Yeah, so you can email us at support@picloflex.com or flexibility@northernpowergrid.com. So if there's no other questions, then I believe we can close it off here. But if you do have any additional questions that you didn't get a chance to ask, yeah, you can email us and we'll jump on it right away.
Yeah,
Thanks,
before we close, we have just got 2 more questions, so I think it's just worth answering them.
Yeah, no worries.
The last one's just before we end. So we have a question: if, let's say, we are providing 10 kilowatts of flex and the duration is 2 hours for the event, in that case, do we need to provide 10 kilowatts in total 2 hours, or 10 kilowatts for every hour?
This question has come up before, hasn't it? Because this isn't. I believe, Liz, you've been looking at this because obviously it's from Kilowatt. So to answer your question, we are still looking at that. I can see the reason you're asking. Is it over the total 2 hours? It has to be specific to each 1 hour. As of right now, we're still looking at that. We've not had a chance because in preparation for the webinar, but we'll take that offline and come back to you. But apologies, we haven't had a chance to look at that. But yeah, we'll take that offline and come back. Yeah, apologies. So if just before we close, Nicole, or do we have another question? Apologies.
We've just got one more and then we'll close. So it's from William: if a bid is successful but not bill, is there a tie-in penalty payable?
So that's a question about the contract. I don't believe there is. I will just review the contract and get back to you, William.
Brilliant, thank you. Maurice, I'll hand over to you to close the webinar. Thank you everyone for joining.
Thanks, Paul. And well done again, and thanks to Piclo and obviously the rest of the team for, I think it was a really, really good webinar, folks. I think it was really, really informative. Look, just the closing comments from me, we are just getting started with Piclo, folks. We've gone out with a kind of sizable tender in terms of the HV, LV, and also expression of interest, but we're just getting started. So you're going to see a lot more in terms of tenders coming, a lot more different flexibility products. So I encourage you to get involved with us now and obviously try and participate in our competitions, because there'll be a lot more actual opportunities for yourselves as FSPs. Very, very keen to support you in terms of looking at stacking opportunities and things like that, which was a good question asked earlier. But engage now, folks, because we, as I said, we're just getting started properly with Piclo and Flexible Power, and I believe there's a lot more to come, particularly for the next 2 or 3 years with us. So thank you, and I will speak to you all very, very soon. Thanks, folks, again. All right.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks. Bye.
Take care. Bye.